Welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings podcast with Ken Smyers and Eric Stromquist. Control news you can use. And now, here's your hosts, Ken and Eric.
Hi, and welcome to Control Talk Now. This is your host, Eric Stromquist, giving you control news you can use on your smart building podcast for the week ending November 15th, 2014. I am joined, as usual, by the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only Kenny Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show, big dog.
Thank you very much, Eric. Glad to be here as always, and I understand you guys got some chilly weather down there in Atlanta, Georgia.
We're getting a little chilly. We're catching up with the rest of the world like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, big dog. It's been cold. Down in the teens last night, high 20s today. So all I got to say is it's a good day to be in doing a podcast, huh?
Well, I'll tell you, I got my coffee here and I had a bowl of soup. It's wintertime and no kidding about it. So it's not going to go away for a couple of months. So it's time to quit complaining and start moving on, right?
Well, hunker down, as they say at the University of Georgia. Hunker down, you hairy dog. So big game today with Georgia and Auburn. If they got any chance of getting back in the hunt, they got to beat Auburn today. So probably check that a little bit later on in the afternoon. But Kenny, another big week in controls, huh? And so Kenny, who is our sponsor this week?
All right, Eric, the sponsor for week ending November 16th, 2014 is EasyIO. EasyIO is a manufacturer of products and services sold worldwide. They are led by the one and only Mike Marston and his crew, and Lim's a great technical support person, but EasyIO has been doing very well. They've been developing a 32-bit Ethernet-based open DDC control solution for over 13 years now, and they enjoy worldwide sales, prominence, and robust annual growth, leading with leading-edge technology. And they are very, very important to us. They are sponsors for the Control Trends Awards, third year.
Well, they sure do. And worldwide is the operative word here, Kenny. If you're a Control Trends follower, you know Kenny and I went to their worldwide conference in Madrid, Spain. And in addition to hanging out at Fashion Week with all those models that were staying at our hotel, we got to meet some great people from around the world. I want to say hi to our friends from India and Norway that we met. You can see several interviews we did on Control Trends. As a matter of fact, Kenny, I still have some video footage for some interviews that we did there that have still yet to be posted. So if you're one of our friends from around the world and we haven't gotten your video posted yet, we will get on that. But Mad Mike Marston, Gordon Chen, and Kenny Johan is actually coming. He runs Europe for EasyIO, is actually coming to the Control Trends Awards. I got a message from him, so you have a chance to meet him in Chicago as well. Another just fantastic executive from EasyIO. Kenny, they're lean, they're mean, they're nimble. The Beast from the East has been recognized by the Control Trends community for the last 2 years as the DDC Controller of the Year. They got quite a bit more competition this year. But you know what impresses me about those guys, Kenny, is with that Beast controller, they just keep making it better. So I think we're in the Mega Beast now or something like that. So they, heck, by the time Chicago comes on, they'll probably have the Beast 4. But many, many thanks to those guys, Kenny. As you know, they were the first people to step and be sponsors, platinum sponsors, year one, and are still sponsors of the Control Trends Awards. So if you're in Chicago and you get a chance to meet Mike Marston, we like to call him Mad Mike Marston. He's one of the greatest guys in the industry. Walk up, shake his or Gordon Hand's chin and say, hey, thanks for making the Control Trends Awards happen. Because it's going to be a big show this year, right, Kenny?
Sure, Eric. In fact, we're looking, I'm getting a little nervous because as we get closer and closer to the show, we want to make sure we do everything right and take care of everything. And we're just working out the logistics. We're going to have a sold-out event, and we know that because of the tremendous sponsorship support we've had and the seating that's allocated to our sponsors. And then we have, the categories, the number of people that are nominated. We have a couple special events. We have our Hall of Fame. We have the P-Talk Award. We have a couple other surprises, but it's all to basically bring positive credit and attention to our industry and to the heroes and the successful people, the products and solutions that make our HVAC industry so large and so good.
It's absolutely right. Last year we were sold out at BB King's because of the weather. about half the people didn't make it to the show. This year, not going to be a problem because we're actually connected via a bridge to where the show is. So you'll be able to walk indoors from the show to the Control Trends Awards. And the other thing about it is it's actually going to be from 6 to 8 this year, whereas in the past it was at lunchtime, so certain people couldn't attend because they had to, take care of the booth at lunchtime. So it's going to be a packed house. As a matter of fact, we are struggling now to try to figure out how to get everybody in. It might be standing room only. I don't think there are going to be any single-seat tickets available like there have been in the past. So I think you really want to reach out to your sponsors, your platinum sponsors, and your sponsors that have the tickets. Make sure to get a name on the list. Tell them that you want to attend the 2014 Control Trends Awards. It's going to be the place to be Monday, January 26th, between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock that Monday evening.
And also, Eric, just to remember, this is in Chicago, so you have 2,000 exhibitors, 60,000 attendees, and 127 hours going on in those 3-day periods. I'm looking at the brochure. We just got another update. But, our industry is just so vast. You forget sometimes just how much you talk about with heating, plumbing, cooling, software, ventilation tools and instruments, refrigeration, solar, IAQ, geothermal controls, building automation, and components. And all those people are going to be there. And like you said, the convenience, you're just going to take that sky bridge across from the actual expo floor to the actual event in the Prairie Ballroom.
It's definitely the show to be at, Kenny. And like you said, we per input we got from our sponsors, we have more categories this year. We have, I think it's 7 or 8 new categories. So we've really expanded the categories out. So because of that, and because of just the popularity of the awards, Kenny, I mean, it's sort of a no-lose situation for a vendor because you're getting a ton of publicity and you're getting introduced to the worldwide Control Trends community. Because of that, we've had many new people nominated this year that have made the finals. And so we're getting, inquiries from a lot of the new people. Okay, what do I need to do to be successful and having a really legitimate shot of winning an award? So I'm going to tell the community, and what we tell everybody is a couple of things. Number one, as you know, hey, if you're on the finalist ballot, congratulations, you did really well to do that. So we're down. We've got our 5 to 6 finalists per category. The final voting will take place we'll probably make those ballots available about the middle of December, and that voting period will open up for 2 to 3 weeks. And in between there, what we like to tell people, Kenny, to be successful, at least the history of what we've seen so far, is you've got to energize your own community. So a lot of the real savvy vendors, they'll send us copies of what they're sending out their community, letting them know about the Control Trends Awards, asking them to nominate them. If they're nominated for finalists, they're sending that out in their newsletters and letting their community know, hey, thanks for your support. We're a finalist in the awards. Hang on, we'll make sure to send you the finalist voting ballot when that comes out. Please continue to support us. And that is one integral piece of it, Kenny. The second piece, and this is the piece that a lot of people, sort of overlooked, is that you really have to interact and engage the Control Trends community as a whole. Okay, so how do you do that? I mean, you obviously know who your customers are, but the Control Trends community is a worldwide community. Countries all over the world participate and vote, and they may or may not know you. Okay, so by and Control Trends is making itself available for you to get your collateral out. And we can do that in several different ways. You can email us posts that you want to put up. We'll put your post up on Control Trends. That's one way to let the community know about your people, products, or company. The second way, Kenny, is to do a video. We'll post your videos for you. The third way, and probably the best way, is we'll have some spots to do interviews. You can actually come on the show and Kenny and I will interview you. And that's probably the best way for people to get to know about your company, your people, and your products. Now, I'll say with a caveat, time begins to run out. And if this is any indication, like it's been in previous years, Kenny, we'll get 2 weeks before the voting's going to end and everybody wants to come on and do an interview. And by then it's just too late. So reach out to Ken and I if you want to do an interview. Or reach out to Ken and me, I should say, if you want to do an interview, and we'll schedule you. It's easy to do. We can do it via Skype, and we can walk you through how to do that process. So I encourage the community, if you're a finalist, please engage your network, but also let Ken and I help you get the word out. And so, Ken, I think we've talked about in the past. This is a great marketing opportunity. It's one of our biggest expenses is trying to go find customers. Here's an opportunity for people to find you. Put your best foot forward. We'll do everything we can to make you look great on Control Trends, and at the very least, people that might not have known you before have the opportunity to find out more about what your company does and who your people are.
Sure it is, Eric. And just again to reiterate, this gives everybody an opportunity to generate a lot of great, marketing collateral, clean up or update or use that social media that is catching storm to engage your communities and engage the Control Trends community. It's just, it seems like everybody that participates wins, regardless of their actual, placements, because you're just part of a growing awareness about the products, and there's just people stratify markets, or markets are stratified. And so, we've had a lot of people tell us that it's been a very positive experience just being involved, and so I think, like anything else, you got to do repetition. So the more repetitions you do to talk about your products, talk about your people, it's only going to be a favorable outcome.
It really is, Kenny, and like I say, so many new people and companies involved this year. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how this year's awards turn out in terms of the winners. And like you say, everybody's a winner. So the other thing, too, just not to be lost in this shuffle about the competition. I mean, when Kenny and I created this is an opportunity for all the great people in our industry to come together to celebrate the industry, celebrate each other, and be honored for the great work that the people in our industry do from all companies. All right, Big Dog. Well, with that, let's get to the week that was. What we have going on last week on Control Trends, Kenny?
First post we had, Eric, was Functional Devices, Inc. is moving to a new facility. So November 14th, Functional Devices had limited access to their emails and phone support, or customers had limited access to Functional Devices emails and phone support from the sales and engineering during the move. However, it will be completed by Monday, November 17th. So this Monday, Functional Devices is going to be up and at 'em, very similar to what Belimo did. So it must be a tremendous effort to move all that, just the material from one building to another, and then set up your communications and all your all your logistics, but the Functional Devices is doing a real strong job. They're nominated for several categories in the Control Trends Awards, and I think because they have such a great assortment of accessory items. They have the half-light ballast controllers for energy savings. They have the building automation systems, the RIB BACnet, LawnWorks, and Ethernet network-compatible devices that could be hardwired onto a network instead of putting on a more expensive multi-output controller. You only need one or two outputs or inputs. Lighting controls, again, they have the shunt relay applications for emergency bypass shunt relay applications, and of course with UL 924. They have a lot of energy-saving devices with their wireless. They teamed up with AIC to get just a complete wireless product portfolio, from the wireless card switch to the using the in-ocean energy harvesting technology to the actual joining the networks with the AIC equipment. And finally, they have some new products that they're very happy with, like the RIB MW24B-44. BC, which is a RIB BACnet, LawnWork, or Ethernet compatible device. Again, that makes gets you that additional I/O where you need it on the network without putting in a more expensive controller.
So what is one thing all the great systems have in common, Kenny? Whether it be Johnson, Honeywell, Delta, you name it, what do they have in common?
Great customer support.
Well, they have that, but the other thing they have in common is that they all get enhanced by having great peripheral devices. So you mentioned a couple of great names here. Functional Devices, their RIB Relay, which stands for Relay in a Box, is a standard. Those guys, AIC does great peripheral devices. Our friends at Contemporary Controls do great peripheral devices, even down to people like Connect Air, Sarah Montaloni, and The Wire. All those things are important because just like any other system or any other group in life, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I think these guys all of them do a fantastic job. So the competition for the best peripheral devices and the smaller manufacturers, which Functional falls into, is going to be a very, very contested event this year just because there's so many great companies doing this. So we've got Thermicon, right? And they do the in-ocean stuff, great stuff as well. So 4 or 5, 6 great companies are going to be duking it out for those Small Manufacturer of the Year awards, and most of them are doing the peripheral devices.
Sure are, and I didn't maybe get the exact answer you were looking for, but one thing I wanted to say about functional devices and everybody else that you mentioned was their technical support is top notch. I've called many times trying to figure out why something wasn't quite working or what we could do as an option, and they just have a very engaging technical support. If they don't have an answer, they'll come back, they'll test something, and they'll figure out why something's not working, a relay's not making contact, or what the requirements are. And so I just hats off to Functional Devices Technical Support Group as well. And Kelly Holmes. Kelly Holmes is I believe he's a national sales manager, and he's coming into Pittsburgh here next week, but he does a great job, because imagine having one guy that's got to cover the tremendous market area of North.
Kenny, one company that really surprises me that didn't get nominated and doesn't really show up on the Control Trends ballot, and I'm curious why this isn't the case, because they have really good products as well, as Dwyer Instruments. I mean, those guys are all over it. I know customers use them. I'm wondering if that's because they got, for the most part, a direct model where they go direct or whatever, but that is one of the big surprises I've had all 3 years, is that Dwyer didn't show up on these ballots. I mean, they're such a well-run company.
Well, they were nominated. It's interesting. I just met our Dwyer. We have a new sales engineer for. Let's see, I think they were short a couple people, but they've hired a lot. I believe they're going through some management, a cultural change. In fact, I know they are, because I talked with our new guy, and the management there has initiated a new corporate culture where Dwyer, I think, they did try the direct model. In other words, they saw themselves to be able to compete toe-to-toe with Kelly and maybe somebody like McMaster Carr, one of the big catalog companies that can work kind of on a one-to-one relationship. The people know what they want to buy. They have a nice catalog that you can kind of pick and choose based on the specifications and features you're looking for. But I think that there has to be like a love and a loyalty that you affiliate with brands, and that comes through people. And the products could be the greatest products in the world, but if you don't differentiate yourself and have an approach, if you don't have the kind of the attention and loyalty of a market, people will use you when they have to, but you're not the guy or the company that's going to get their that they'll go out of the way to nominate you and vote for you as the accessory company there. Another company does there's 2 or 3 of them, like Bappy has a heck of a product line, and so does Veris, and they all showed up. But at the end of the day, it seems the people that have that the Barry Gordons and the Kelly Holmes, the people that kind of dig in a little bit deeper and have a little bit more than just a telephone service or an online service. People that go into the actual develop that contractor relationship.
Well, the other thing seems to be, too, the ones you mentioned are all great product lines. I mean, we actually handle Bappy and Dwyer and all that. But it seems like the other company, we've reached out to them in the past to try to get them to participate on Control Trends. I mean, forget about the awards. Just you have something you want to post, can we keep and they haven't done it. So I wonder if there's a correlation, because they're not showing up on Control Trends, that people just don't know them as well. So, one of the interesting things that I hear over and over from people that do a lot of advertising and track that kind of stuff is they say they get just tremendous volume through Control Trends. And, so if you look on, who's doing the interviews and stuff like that, I won't say who's telling us that, but the people that come on and do the interviews a lot, one of the reasons they're doing it is because they get so much traffic every time they put some up on Control Trends, or if they just even have a logo like the Platinum sponsors that track those sort of statistics. Kenny, as part of that Platinum sponsorship is you get an advertisement spot on Control Trends for 12 months, and the people that really track those stats say they just get tremendous volumes through Control Trends. So we appreciate our community reaching out to those people, and I guess the invitation to people that are not participating and not coming on and sharing their information, we invite you to do that. I don't think there's a downside to it.
Yeah, and in all fairness, they're just to maintain some equilibrium. I think what they do is they think that their websites are totally self-sufficient, and they don't need to advertise. I know some of them used to be very big advertisers, like in Engineered Systems, and you saw them everywhere you went. And then they kind of took those marketing resources or those that effort, and they put it into their own website. Like if you go into Wire's website, they have a heck of a website, and it's very informative. They do a lot of videos. Same with Bappy. Bappy has a great site, and of course Veris. Veris, I think just they were on the verge of it, but they didn't want to be a Me Too. I think because they weren't in the first round of it. I think it was hard for them to get into it, but. We welcome them to get involved, and we'll probably see them in the future.
All right, Big Dog. We had a little bit of oil and cybersecurity happening in Canada last week. Let's talk about that.
Well, first of all, let's give hats off again to our neighbors in North Canada. I tell you, they got some really great programs, some great manufacturing, some great contractors, and some great programs. This was the Cybersecurity for Oil and Gas Summit in Canada. The early bird registration ended November 14th, so I think you just saved $500 but you can still sign up. But it was their who's list of experts in that field, because they had a list of confirmed speakers where you go into Zoltan Palmai, who's a team leader for network security, and he specializes in security access operations for Chevron. Just a who's list of security experts, from the senior constable Shakif Panja from technical crimes team, Calgary Police. But the whole emphasis is that there's a growing concern, Eric, that we're not doing quickly enough to prevent or to deal with all the challenges of targeted cyber attacks and data loss and data exploitation in these utility areas, especially, and how vulnerable we are as a society. So this this whole concept is to enhance everybody's awareness and take measures. It's a threat and countermeasure seminar. Again, the summary is cyber attacks have become the scourge of information age. A recent report by think tank and publisher Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, the global energy sector, was cited as the most vulnerable global industry to cyber incursion. And with that in mind, they surveyed the database of IT and cybersecurity professionals to see what they thought about the threats, particularly to the hydrocarbon industry. So they came up with a very interesting seminar, multi-day seminar, to give people an opportunity to get there, meet up with the people that are in the know, take some of that information back home and put it into effect. And they came up with a nice little infographic that we have a direct link to on our site to give people a greater insight.
Dude, do you know how much oil was dropped the last 5 or 6 months?
Our gas went from 370 to 319.
I'm talking about the oil, though, baby.
Here
Ever since
Pittsburgh.
I bought that Tesla, man, the prices, I think, dropped another 20% this week. So I think now that I got an electric car, everybody is shifting over. So, dude, I tell you what, and you tell me that you did some research, you can tell me how my car works now.
I'll tell you what, Eric, you made me a little jealous, and I had to find out what this Tesla is all about. So I went on the YouTube, and I watched 3 or 4 videos, and I'll tell you what, wow. You and your structural changes, the electric car is going to be... It's going to take the path that the horse buggy or the horse and buggy resisted against the automobile. So 20 years from now, you're probably going to have the percentage of electric car versus carbon-based fuels. So
I got to tell you, Kenny. I've had a little bit over a week and a half with this thing now. So do you want to an update, the good, the bad, the ugly about electric cars?
All right. Well, and then also I want to give you a head-to-head report on your car or the Tesla Model S versus the Mercedes S550. S-Class. First of all, I was curious, they're both incredibly fast and very beautiful cars inside and out, but do you know that Tesla Model S does the 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds as compared to a 4.7 second for the S-Class, the S550? It does 100 miles... Well, I tell you, just the basic head-to-head competition. The name of the site was Head on Head, and he took those 2 cars and he compared them inside and out, and it was just fabulous. Those are 2 of the most incredible cars. The Tesla won in many categories, but the Mercedes was picked overall because of the challenges the battery now presents to somebody that's into a luxury car and can go 336 or 350 miles with a fresh battery. But if you put the air conditioner on and drive it over 60 some miles an hour, you've got 160 miles instead of 330.
Well, I got to tell you, Kenny, it's like I said, I've had a week and a half with this thing now, and it is an awesome car. And yeah, it is really, really fast. But the challenge if you go fast is then you have to stop and recharge your car. So it's fascinating. Atlanta, I think last week we said they were the number 2 in the world with electric cars. So Nissan's got this deal. My neighbor has one, the Nissan Leaf. And basically, Kenny, they got a 2-year lease with that lease in Georgia. And you get like a $5,500 tax credit on it. So bottom line with that Leaf, you get to drive a car for 2 years and you're only paying for 6 months of the whole thing. It's phenomenal. He loves his Leaf. So there are a ton of Leafs around Atlanta just because it's almost like having a free car. So the challenge is this Tesla is just awesome. But so you got this one little green bar that tells you, how many miles you should have left, right? So this thing will do 260 miles on a full charge. But what they don't tell you is that you driving on the highway at 55 miles an hour, not stopping, not running your radio, not running your air conditioner or heater. If you do any of that stuff if you're in town, you got this other thing that does either instantaneous where you're at, another energy graph, or you can average it over your last 5 miles, 10 miles, or 30 miles. So those numbers differ greatly. So you're tooling along in your little green bar, which is your ideal, tells you got like 180 miles left. You look at this other energy meter and it's telling you got like 60 miles left. So the first point of panic is, which one of those do I look at? So yeah, there are a ton of chargers around. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a quick education on the chargers. There's the level 2 chargers, which are like 40 amps, and they're everywhere. And you can, some of them are free, and the free ones, you got to fight with the Nissan Leaf people to do those because there's always a line there. But you get these little cards and you can charge. So you can fully charge your car for, $20, $25, okay, like my Tesla. So bottom line, I had to take it to this place, plug it in, walk home, work from home, came back like 8 hours later. I was completely charged. It cost me about $20. So the deal is it's geared up for you either have a charger at home so you plug it in at night and you let it charge overnight so you always keep your charge full or close to full. So you never let it go down because if you let it go down, it just takes too damn long to charge the car. So I think Tesla's got the car down. They do have some superchargers like on the highway, which is 30 minutes for half a charge. So you figure every time you stop, you got to stop for an hour to get a full charge on it, okay? Or you got to stop for a half an hour every 120 miles. But there are all kinds of other chargers around town, okay? So they're like these superchargers. So I get so happy because I finally found a supercharger, right? And I go to find this supercharger. I go to plug into it. It's actually free. I don't have the right adapter for it. So I call the Tesla dealership and I go, what's going on with this? Oh, we know we're developing an adapter for this and we don't have it. It's $450 when we get it. So I got to wait for that. So anyway, that's sort of the unnerving part of it. I think they'll get all of that worked out, Kenny. So I did get a charger installed at the office. So problem solved. I get in the morning, plug the charger in, go do work. By the time I end that day, I got another full charge. So no more anxiety about that. So I think it's a great technology. I think you're right. I think this could be a structural change. I mean, if you drive one of these things, the torque it has, the speed it has, and the fact it's zero emissions. I mean, the fact you're seeing Mercedes and everybody else is coming out with their version of it, I think that's the wave of the future. And I think the other thing is, if you look at it, what more effective way to fight terror than just not be dependent on oil?
Well, not all terrorism is oil-based, but I mean, there's some political stuff there that have to be dealt with. But I agree with you. And again, we might not see it in our lifetime, a complete transition. But here's the beginning of it, because once they get it's like disruptive technology we know about the house. Everybody is going to become reliant. We have another part of our post later on here where we're talking about the meters, smart meters, and and privacy, and that game's over. We know the end result of that. We'll have something to share with the community here shortly. But after I did the half hour, whatever I watched on the YouTube, and then I went to the science side of it, and as they get better at making batteries, and as they get just like we're doing power steering and we're doing an ocean technology, we're actually generating voltage using the difference of media temperature versus ambient temperature. I mean, it's just the technology will come. Once the desire's there and once the market's there, then the products will follow. And I think this is just the beginning of an avalanche. But I think it'll meet a lot of resistance. There'll be a lot of headwind because there's a lot of industries that just not going to give up on it. But they're going to have to continuously compete, and that competition is going to drive a better product. It's going to make it a safer vehicle, a more efficient vehicle, and a more friendly vehicle to the environment. So everything matters. I think it's all procession, like your friend Marshall Thurber said.
Well, I think he did. And, Kenny, it's interesting. I picked up a book last night I started reading. It's called 0 to 1 by a guy named Peter Thiel. He was actually the guy that started PayPal. He was part of that PayPal mafia, which Elon Musk, the guy that developed Tesla, that's where he started. So all these guys are together. He's got a really interesting dichotomy. He basically says that capitalism versus technology is a thing, not capitalism versus socialism. And he's basically saying capitalism is a zero-sum game, which basically means that it invites more and more competition till nobody makes any money. So his change in that is technology. So he's advocating like startup companies and things like that because he's saying technology is, or a monopoly, if you create something better, you don't have competition, so then you can continue to make it better and you don't get priced out of the market. So I'll report more on that, but it's a very interesting premise. And, I think it gets back to this whole thing about the disruptive technology. I think that, the electric car, disruptive, processional, but, it is like the people that have the existing competitive model are fighting it tooth and nail. Like, for example, in Georgia, they would not do a lease here. It's not legal for them to do a lease in Georgia because the regular car manufacturers have band together, kind of like they did with the taxi cab drivers did with Uber, which is that outsourced service. So yeah, it's interesting. So I think there's those, like you alluded to, there's those political barriers that once those come down, I think we're going to see just massive change. I think it will be in our lifetime. I think everything will be electric, probably here in the next 5 to 10 years. It just makes so much sense.
Well, I mean, that goes into the ADR thing, and open ADR. Once we get the utility smart grid down and we make ourselves more efficient at the structural level, then we're going to be able to take on more opportunities to do more with electricity or more with power, use it more wisely. But, you're going to start to see, like, your service trucks. I bet you there's going to be a battery charging service truck service that's out there now, so you never have to have anxiety. So the worst case scenario, you could call your cell phone and say, hey, where's the closest mobile charging center? Where somebody's driving around in a truck on a highway that can give you that quick boost to get you back on the road and get you to a charging station. I mean, industry will just keep developing. It's just.
Yeah, but it does, Kenny. But look who the losers are. If this was actually go 100%, man, your oil companies, your Exxons, your people like that are totally getting shut out of this if they don't adapt to it. So, I'm just agreeing with you.
No. What I think they'll do is they'll be able to take that oil and put it somewhere else. In other words, we're always going to use oil. I mean, oil is. We don't realize how much we use oil for all the synthetics, for all the material, textiles. For aircraft industry. Aircraft industry is not going to work on batteries. At least I don't see it until they get some kind of a propulsion system. But so you're gonna, it's going to come out of the automobile industry. The first area they're going to take a hit on is going to be the car industry, and it's probably the most important area to do first. So then they'll take that fuel and they'll be able to use it for something else. In other words, I think they'll modulate it, but I think.
So what does it do to fuel prices though? Do you think that the fuel prices go down? Yeah, but then do you think then that they stop having as much supply, so then the prices go back up again?
Sure, but I think what's going to happen, Eric, if I was to take a guess at what we're talking about, or looking across the ball, is everybody's going to start making some kind of power for themselves. Everybody with a big house, everybody that has the ability to generate power is going to collect power for themselves and sell it back to the grid, like all these places out in California doing that already. I mean, think about it. So what's going to happen is these buildings are going to start like we covered that building in San Francisco. It's generating power. It's got wind turbines on all four corners of its building, so every time the wind blows, it's generating something. So we're just going to keep seeing this kind of technology generate power that's going to go into a battery. I think the real trick will be, how do you store it? That's probably where the most clever inventions are going to be, is storing generated power, electricity, that even in your car. So you're driving down the road, pretty soon you're going to have turbines on the side of your car that as you go 60 miles an hour, you're going to have something in there that's going to take that wind velocity and convert it into power, charge your battery while you're driving. Something's going to happen.
It's funny, Kenny, with that, because I go to the gym, and you do too, and, you see all these people on the treadmills and the bikes and stuff like that. It seems like somebody would invent a little device that you could set up to those, so when people are working out, they're actually generating power. Can you imagine having a gym that's completely powered by the people working out in it? All right, Control Trends community. So we'd be very interested to know what you think about this. Please reach out to us in comments, join the conversation. Kenny, let's get on to the next post, which was one of your kindred spirits. By the way, happy Veterans Day to you, Kenny. Thank you for your service in the Air Force. And our Dozier Mills.
Little post there, and it made me actually look into what a veteran was, because you have so many versions and classifications, and some of the real serious vets that were in WW2 and the Korean War and Vietnam War, they actually saw combat. There's combat veterans, there's veterans of foreign wars, but the actual definition by the government for a veteran is if you served more than 17 consecutive months in one of the branches of military service, and you're no longer in the military, then you're considered by the government to be a veteran. But it's a great day, to reflect back. A lot of people lost a lot of loved ones, and a lot of things are done by the preeminence of the military. So thanks to all the veterans, and thank you for thanking me.
Good stuff, buddy. All right, our friends at DG Logic, Kenny, coming up with some new stuff. Tell our folks a little bit about that.
All right, Eric, next up we have DG Logic introduces Project Assist for DG Lux 5. And again, the guys from DG Lux and DG Logics are incredible. They keep improving an awesome visualization tool. This now DG Logic's Project Assist easily creates an application or dashboard to monitor your building data, and it can happen very quickly with DG Logic's evolutionary new wizard, Project Assist for DG Lux 5s. So DG Lux team has created a plug-and-play wizard that allows users to start designing and developing data-driven applications with some clicks and drags of a few buttons within a modern design environment. And there are four main menu components that provide hand-holding. And those are, I can read them, project navigation, manage templates, style manager, and launch viewer. Now, I know that you watched that video. What were your thoughts on this new tool?
Well, I think that DG to me is just very, very aesthetically pleasing, and there's so many great graphical companies out there. We talk a lot about on the show, but these guys, they sort of have a sense of style. We jokingly call them the Men in Black. Eugene, Arthur, Dennis, Paul, the rest of the team. You see them at these meetings. They're always dressed to the nines. They're stylish and well dressed. And I think as a way to describe their work, they're perfectionists. What they come out with is stylish. This Project Assist is just going to make it easier for you to work with their system. And congratulations to those guys. And those guys are platinum sponsors as well. Eugene and his team have been platinum sponsors of the Control Trends Award since day one. So we appreciate those guys. And, I think it's definitely worth checking out.
Well, to make the name of the game is to get in and get out and make things simple. And then DG Lux and the DG box have been very successful, and it just keeps getting better. And I think what the DG Logic has done is they've made very strong alliances with all the major control manufacturers, all the service providers. I see them everywhere now, and I know they're working very, very hard with Cisco. And I'll tell you what, that's working with the big league there. And so they stay busy, and they stay like you said, and they're just gentlemen. They really enjoy their jobs. You can see it. Again, great customer service, very knowledgeable, and led by a great executive, Eugene Mazzo.
Agreed.
All right, Eric. Next up, we have how to install a gas pressure regulator the right way, the Stromquist way, I guess, huh? That's a great video by Matt Koenig, and it shows you the right way to pipe and install a gas pressure regulator. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? That's a pretty sophisticated. That's not your average regulator there, is it?
Well, Actually, that's just, I was looking for an image to put up there to attract people's attention. So I got that off of Google Images. I wouldn't know how to pipe that regulator if I had to, but Stromquist sells a lot of gas pressure regulators. We handle all the major brands, and we have for years. This is an older video. I think it's been around for 4 or 5 years. I repost it every year about this time, just simply because it's getting cold out there and people are starting to install gas pressure regulators. And what we will say and what Matt will tell you, it doesn't matter whose regulator you're using. If you don't pipe it correctly, it's not going to work. And so Matt does a really nice job of breaking it down, showing you what you need to do and how you need to pipe your gas pressure regulator to work. It will work with anybody's regulator, but you have to have a certain number of pipe lengths upstream and downstream. You really need a filter in there. I can't tell you how many regulators we get back, and we sell regulators in the tens of thousands, Kenny. So we get a lot of regulators back, and we'll send them back for the factory for warranty. There'll be nothing wrong with them, or we'll put them on our test board. There's nothing wrong with them, but they didn't put a filter in there, so something got trapped in there. Regulator didn't work. So gas regulators there's not a lot you need to know about them, Kenny, as you know, because I know you've sold them in the past too, but you do. There are a few things you just got to get right, and this regulator will totally get you get you up to speed on what you need to do. And along those lines, Kenny, we'll probably go back in the archives and over the next months, we'll try to post a technical video on things to do with boilers and flame safeguard and heat, because it's that time of year we're generating heat big time.
Well, you're right, and I tell you, we're selling again. Gas pressure regulators are a staple in this time of year when the heat comes on for the first time. And like you said, we were down in the teens last night, and I'll tell you, nothing's more miserable than not having heat, and the urgency is a whole different ballgame. It's like the stock market. You go until you get the thing. Your hands on the regulators, and you guys do a great job, and we know that there's 4 critical things. You need to know the inlet and outlet pressures. You need to know the line sizes and total capacities before you can start talking about ordering a regulator. And again, those filters and strainers are worth their weight in gold, because that's typically when the regulator's not working well, it's because it's not piped right, or it's got something in the line, something that's gumming it up or preventing the seal from closing down because there's just a physical object debris.
Let's talk about the number one mistake people make, and it typically doesn't happen if you're just replacing a regulator, but most of the time, the line size of your pipe and the regulator is typically a little bit smaller line size, so you really got to base it on the capacity of whatever you're going to, the unit you're going to. So a lot of times, here's a tip: if you're replacing a unit and getting either more capacity or less capacity, that's what we need to know, plus the inlet and outlet that you need, and whether it needs to be vented outside or not. But based on that, a lot of times you'll find, Kenny, that you're stepping down a size with the regulator. So don't just assume, don't assume that it's going to be the same as the line size. Now, again, if you're just replacing one and it's been working and the equipment hadn't been replaced or additional load hadn't been added down line, you're probably okay. But I'll tell you this, Kenny, we keep quite a bit in stock. We sell a lot to other wholesalers. So if you're looking for a gas pressure regulator, reach out to your local wholesaler and say, hey, call Stromquist and Company, and we can sell the regulator through your local wholesaler, get you squared away.
I learned too, you want to take the pressure as far inside the building as possible. Many times, what we're seeing people is they starve it. They put a regulator in and it worked fine, and all of a sudden they added another water heater, or somebody did this and they create another load, and then all of a sudden there's not enough gas to go around. One of the smart things I think I learned recently too is these regulators that you sell too. The this old Schlumberger now it's Itron, but it was Actaris. So they went through. I got a kick out of Schlumberger. That's an area that's bordered between France and Germany. When the French were in control of that part of the world, it was called Schlumberger. When the Germans took it over, it was Schlumberger. And through the years, it went back and forth based on some of those things that were going on in Europe at the time. But the bottom line is that that these things could take pressure, high pressure, or 2 pounds or whatever, take it into the building further instead of trying to regulate everything at one major regulator right at the building envelope, and then take it to all these loads inside. So we learned some, that's a good video, and those guys down there at Itron do a great job as technical support goes, to make sure that you don't starve your appliances and your loads trying to do one regulator fits all. It's better to take those regulators as far into the building as possible as a service, and then an appliance regulator. Get an appliance regulator, second regulator. Alrighty, Eric, speaking of energy and speaking of doing everything right, our next post is the November 2014 issue of the United States Department of Energy's Building America Update newsletter. And this is another one of those ones where we had 8 posts from the Department of Energy this week. We picked this one because it had probably the greatest applicability to our Control Trends community. And this is some really interesting stuff because of the example. Just a rough overview is that the DOE funding opportunity announcements for Building America industry partnerships for high-performance housing innovation. And there's 5 more subjects that are in this newsletter. Please go to the site instead of reading them all off to you here and boring you. But there's I think what I got out of this issue is that the Building America program is all about bringing building innovation to the markets that we're in. And while we're not directly in the residential market, some of these houses are so large they use commercial or light commercial equipment. So then the control, actually, they're using commercial controls and commercial equipment on these very large-sized houses. But they give a nice example of a photo with 2 brick homes that have been upgraded into high-performance homes. The Building America research teams designed, tested, and demonstrated efficient technologies and practices that resulted in cost-effective, marketable home performances. And now they're giving away $4 million to research and development projects that continue to advance high-impact residential building efficiency technologies and practices. And the deadline's concept paper due December 12th, and the deadline for full applications is February 4th, 2015. But again, I think it's a fabulous idea because what they're trying to do is they're going to adopt energy-saving measures that will enable 50% savings in new homes by 2025 and 40% energy savings in existing homes by 2030. So both channels, the existing homes are going to become more and more efficient, and new houses, the standards that you're going to have to use when you build a new house are going to be just incredibly efficient. So it's all based on these programs that the government makes accessible.
Government is really kicking butt with this, Kenny. Like, you and I lament a lot that why can't we figure some way out to get some of that money, right? So it's interesting stuff.
Well, I remember the era when it came out, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, how we were incentivized by, say Honeywell, for instance, they actually had a website for it, and as monies were being available, and you had to apply for the programs. We never really, Pennsylvania never got into the major funding of that. We got a lot of money from that act to do our bridges, but we never got anything to make buildings more energy efficient, whatever.
So, Kenny, let me sort of ask you a question, man. So, the open ADR. Now, you were telling me off camera that Pennsylvania just passed a law that smart meters are mandatory. Is that accurate?
Well, I got the mail on Thursday, today's Saturday, and it says your power is about to get brighter. An introduction to smart meters, and this was a document sent by First Energy Pennsylvania Utilities, and it's all of them. MedEd, Penelec, Penn Power, West Penn Power are starting to install smart meters on all customer homes and businesses throughout the service areas. This effort is in response to the Pennsylvania Act 129, which requires all large electric utilities in Pennsylvania to install smart meters. Now, there's a couple of things here. Number one, this is a social marketing masterpiece. It's got the little dog in the front. It's got the couple standing over a computer looking at their energy bill, and it's got a picture of the grid. The big high tension power lines going across farmer field. And they talk about the smart meter, and they put an arrow to the utility access point and another arrow to the wireless access area network, and then the utility company. But it covers some of the things we talked about. We've been talking about this now for almost 2 years.
So, for our listeners who might not know, what is the definition of a smart meter, and why are the utility companies putting them in? Well,
2 things about the smart meter is, one, that the communications are two-way. There were programs, there were controls that could take a signal from the utility company and create a demand response option. knock the set points down, stagger equipment. Every second unit would go into a standby mode or shut off or whatever. So, I mean, those things. But now they're actually sending information back. So my understanding of, especially with the meters, is that there's two-way communication between equipment, either the smart meter or the thermostat, that not only can take commands from the utility grid, but also provide information so that it can actually monitor the consumption and occupancy but the demand response program helps utilities maintain grid reliability, enable customers to realize significant value. So it's a two-way, there's someone on both sides, but it's a necessity to be efficient, but it also gives people the opportunity to save money. So the Open ADR Alliance was created to standardize, automate, and simplify demand response to enable utilities to cost-effectively meet growing energy demand and customer control of their energies. So what the smart meter does is it's a very critical component that monitors the kW, kWh inside of the house. It could be it can communicate with smart thermostats and provide other informations like occupancy or whatever, and then it can control the thermostat. So set it back if there is a open ADR, or I'm sorry, the ADR automated demand response means that there's no people involved, there's no human, it's a machine to machine. So the smart meter is just simply the ability to provide two-way communication between the end user's consumption rate and utilities providing the.
So let me get this straight, Kenny. So it's a hot August Sunday afternoon. You got your AC on. I got my AC on. We got all our equipment done because we're doing a control talk now. And all of a sudden, the utility decides that they need to cut back a little bit. So all of a sudden, they're going to turn our power down. They're going to reset our thermostat. So now we're sweating bullets on camera. Is that what's going to happen here?
Well, there's more. Yeah, that could easily happen. Yes, that's correct. Ultimately, I'm going to qualify that because there's more than just your thermostat and your air conditioning in your household. You've got your washer and dryer. You got your refrigerator. You've got your oven. You've got your water heater. And what they do is they pinch a little bit of all of them. So let's just say your dryer's on and the high temperature heat's on there. It might turn that down. It'll continue to spin. Go through the dryer cycle, but the heat will be turned off.
Yeah, so I got soggy clothes that smell bad because
it's temporary.
Right?
It's temporary to get past a bad spot. In other words, all this stuff is if you come from your perspective, which I can easily see, I could take that same side, but so I'm just trying to give you some.
No. I'm being a bit facetious here because, as you know, we had. I see two issues here that concern me. And the first one, we sort of jokingly put a guy named Minivan Jack up probably over a year ago, and he is just fighting smart meters tooth and nail. Okay, and one of his premises is he says, from a health standpoint, they're very dangerous. Now, I doubt that's the case, but he says that they put out a certain radiation that is not healthy. I think that's extreme, okay? But the second thing he's saying is it sort of, violates your constitutional rights. You really don't have a choice in this. You just read in Pennsylvania, they're mandating it. You don't have a choice. But the second thing is now, and you alluded to it earlier, Kenny, now they know when you're home. They know when you're not. And Minivan Jack is definitely doing the big brother thing. They got a way to keep tabs on you and so on and so forth. And would it be admissible in evidence? Whatever. But I sort of get his point. I think he's a bit extreme. I don't think that's the intent of any of this. I definitely don't get that. But I want to cite something else that's pretty interesting. Do you remember when we were at Haystack, covering Haystack Connect? About a year and a half ago.
Certainly.
And remember we met that lobbyist, the guy that was the energy lobby, and we were sort of asking, because we were talking about California and Texas, they get all these rebates. And, this guy was actually from Georgia, and he said, look, the rest of the country's not getting the rebates because they got oversupply. They've got more supply and not enough demand. So they got to make money, so they're not going to give rebates. So my question sort of becomes, okay, so if that is the case, and you only got a couple of states, California and Texas, why are they mandating that in Pennsylvania? Why is that a law?
Well, Eric, a couple of things. That's several questions in one. But to go back to the very start, I was telling you why this is a social marketing masterpiece. To answer some of the questions one by one, what if I don't want a smart meter? The response is the company is required by Pennsylvania law to install a smart meter for all our Pennsylvania customers. So, end of subject, no debate. It's a law. Will smart meters be installed on your home and business? Yes. In the next weeks, you will receive letters and information about the time period when we will be in your area to exchange your meter. 3, I'm concerned about privacy. Are you able to track when my family is home or my business is occupied? No. The meter does not provide that information regarding the occupancy of your home or business or activities of those in your home or business, which we might be suspect of, because we saw the presentation where they said that the meters are so intelligent that they could tell you if you're using a hair dryer or a personal appliance or this, or they could actually do the horsepower of the motor based on the signature that the meter can collect. But in addition, the meter is able to track your hourly usage but cannot measure the usage of any individual appliance or other electrical device within your home or business.
Then how are they going to turn your dryer off?
No, here. That's what I'm saying. It's a social marketing message here, okay? Come on, it's a message. Now, look, will you limit the amount of electricity I am allowed to use? No. The utility company will not limit the amount of power you can use. The utility company might not, but somebody else might. Will this smart meter affect my health? No. The numerous studies have shown that smart meters using radio frequency technologies pose no health risk. While smart meters emit a low level of RF exposure from smart meters is a fraction of the level that comes from other commonly used household devices such as cell phones, garage door openers, televisions, microwaves, wireless internet, and baby monitors. Getting back to the one of the questions you asked that I thought was very important was that it's done, and we just have to live with it. We might be able to address privacy issues. There have already been police courses where people now assume that there's intelligence in a household that they can retrieve. In other words, if you have occupancy features in your appliances, your thermostat, and your smart meter that would signify that no one was home or someone was home, that could be useful. Yes, of course. Your computer usage. If you had appliances, what about your computer? Could they monitor if there were computers in use and service, using your internet provider, Yes. So, you can take a dark side of this probably to the degree that you won't have any fun anymore and there's no sense getting out of bed, but the reality is it's going to take a lot of energy for anybody to take this stuff below a certain level.
So I'm curious about something, and you're kind of the investigative reporter type. I would be very curious in Pennsylvania. I don't know whether you could find this out. Who sponsored that bill in Pennsylvania? Who got it passed? Was it a majority that passed it? Did anybody oppose it, right? If so, why? And who were the lobbyists that were pushing it? Because here's the kick in the short for me, Kenny. This is the big kick in the short for me and probably for the control trends community is it seems to me like all this ADR stuff and all this stuff, we're giving this stuff up. And are we getting a piece of this? Are we getting to sell the smart meters? Are we getting to even sell the thermostats? Are we getting to sell any of this? Or is this just a complete bypass? What do you think?
I knew you were coming there, Eric, and I'm prepared because that's a good question, and I think it's good and bad. Here's some of the bad right off the bat. This is old. This is from June 2013, but Honeywell press release. Sioux City is first municipality to implement new Wi-Fi thermostats. So here's an entire city working with first municipality to implement a new Wi-Fi thermostat as part of a citywide effort to cut energy consumption costs, right? So on one hand, it's a very utilitarianistic proposal. It's for the betterment of society, lowering the carbon footprint. But if you were a distributor selling thermostats, that'd be a pretty big chunk out of your potential market. You're not going to sell them to anybody. They're going to put them in from Honeywell to the utility to the actual end user. So you're right, no sales there. And then if you go to Nest's site, and this is on right now, they have a direct energy post. Get a Nest thermostat at no cost and start saving energy now. So if you were in the thermostat business, that's what you relied on for a living, I would say you're in big trouble because, they're going to take the quickest, most inexpensive route to the end result. The thermostat manufacturers are incentivized by huge potentials to work directly with municipalities. Single sale, probably selling 1 million thermostats a year. So there's no room for two-step distribution in that channel. But on the other hand, you have great products that come out. For instance, Tritium, Open ADR Simple Climate Driver. And basically the Open ADR Automatic Demand Response Driver, Simple Climate Driver is part of Tritium's portfolio of software drivers that enable communications and interfaces between Niagara, hosts, and utilities. It allows ISOs and aggregators to support automated demand response programs. So if you sell a Niagara system to a large customer or to a customer that is so inclined, you could sell them a driver. And then we know that Connex Energy, for instance, they sell solutions and products that they could bring through distribution or through a partnership. So that if you're working very closely with one of the MUSH markets, the municipalities, university schools, and hospitals that have a large energy load and they want to automate in their demand response, you have products that you can sell. So I think it's going to require, you're not going to be staying static. Somebody's moved to cheese and there's no sense crying about it. It's done. It's not a question of if. So yeah, the bypass, but many people think it already was there. The do-it-yourself market was never part of the two-step distribution channel in the first place. So to find out about it now and then cry about it is kind of, futile, frivolous, and
well, I'm interested what the control trends community thinks about this because, as you know, our community is made up from everybody from consulting engineers to building owners to homeowners to contractors, systems integrators, mechanical contractors, service contractors. You name the gambit in this industry, and they. I'm curious. Please reach out in comments and let us know what your thoughts are on this open ADR thing. Do you lean towards what Kenny says, which is no sense in crying over spilt milk? Or do you lean to what I'm thinking? There's something rotten in Denmark and it's not the milk. What was our next post, Kenny?
Okay, next up we have Niagara Analytics Framework webinars. Register now for information and demos. We got a nice, interesting heads up from the Tritium folks that Niagara Analytics Framework webinars are coming out there. There's a total of 6 webinars that you can sign up directly on our site. We put the hot buttons on for, they range from this upcoming Tuesday, November 18th at 11 o'clock, spread out to December 4th, Thursday to 2 o'clock. They're all Eastern Standard Times are all posted on the Control Trends website under this post. But basically, Tritium's new data analytics platform has all the appealing hallmarks of a truly open Niagara framework that enables you to leverage its power to transport data into actionable information. Combines the historical perspective with real-time insight, moving you from a reactive response to a more powerful, proactive position. Easy to use, requires no specialized programming skills, yet it gives you advanced analytics. So, looks like a really good thing. And also, give everybody a heads up that there's an early adopter program which is filling fast. And this is where they want some of the more experienced Niagara Framework people to join this program. And if you do so, they incentivize it by giving you the framework certification training for one person, one Niagara Analytics starter license, invitation to participate in a monthly contest in 2015 for visibility within the Niagara community, and recognition at the 2016 Niagara Summit, and the opportunity to win the grand prize.
Very good stuff, Kenny. Very good stuff. And speaking of training, our final post of the week, Ask a Snyder Control Expert. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Snyder Controls is very excited about this SC8000 series room controller, and I don't know. I think we had some influence with everybody about getting things. Your live streaming that Stromquist has done has been very successful and caught a lot of people's attention, and I think that in the spirit of that invitation to an open community, Schneider is having a 1-hour seminar this Wednesday, November 19th, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. They have a panel of experts from the Schneider community. Mike Savanish, Director of Business Development. Tim Drugeropoulos from the Business Development Manager sector of North America. Pierre Poquet, the Offer Manager, just a bunch of guys to include our friend Simone Lebond, Director of Strategy and Marketing for Viconics and Schneider. Just a great, could be a great post. The individual room controllers are application specific, and it's a commercial grade thermostat room controller, and I'm sure it's going to be very beneficial for the people attending it, especially if you're in the channel to sell the Schneider electric Viconic controllers.
Good stuff, Kenny. Way to keep everybody posted on that. I tell you what, I've gotten a couple of questions about the website that something was a little bit confusing about the Control Trends website. So a lot of people, and I don't know if you've run into this or not, Kenny, but if you scroll down to the end of the first page, there really is no way you can go to the next page down at the bottom, okay? And so people are kind of going, well, how do I see what was before, the last post on the first page? It's just part of the template that we use, but there is a way around that. So if you go to the right-hand side of the page and scroll down, right under Read More, which is a place you can get, things specifically by vendors. But if you scroll down, there's a place called Archives. And if you click on Archives, like, for example, you go November 2014, that will take you to every single post that was done in November, and then you can go from there. Now, when you get to the bottom of the page, you can go to all the pages in November or October or pretty much any month you want. So that's your workaround on that. Apologize for the confusion on that. But just remember, you got that Archives right there. And what people are telling us too, Kenny, is the search engine is pretty good. So if you type in something we've written an article on, that works pretty well as well. So, again, thank you for those questions. If you have questions, you can just you leave them in comments or reach out to us, controltrends@gmail.com. All right, Kenny, anything else before we hop off?
No, Eric, that was it. Thanks again to EasyIO, our Control Trends sponsor for the week ending November 16th.
All right, Kenny, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out right now and see if there's a smart meter out there in my house. And if there is, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to take it out. I'm going to be a lawbreaker when it comes to that, maybe. But hey, appreciate you, Big Dog. Hope you have a great week. Thanks to all our listeners. And remember, stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers.